This is Dania Esperanza. Welcome to my channel, Hope Speaks. This is a channel where we talk about reprogramming your subconscious mind and why. I'm self-taught. I am not a doctor or a neurologist or a psychiatrist, a licensed one, but I am experienced in the book of life, and everything that I have learned has brought me to this place right now, especially a great story that I have to share with you about a Bible that I received as a sign, even though I am not, as you say, religious. I am spiritual. I believe in all religions and all spiritualities because I connect with the spirit within each and every one of us, not the actual religion. And I am also an empath, so I pick up a lot of energies, and I'm very intuitive. And with that, I'd like to share my first story, which is um, I should say, a prophecy, as some might say, a message from the other side that I should share. There are two artifacts that I have that I would like to talk about. The first one is a Bible. It's this one that I received as a sign. I have a son that has a disability. He was born with the same disease that his father, my husband, passed away from. It was back then called sarcoidosis. They misdiagnosed my husband, but he had Savvy's thing, which is SAVI, all capitals, and then Sting, capital as well. It's an inflammatory autoimmune disease like lupus or severe rheumatoid arthritis, but it can affect any organ, and it also can cause death. Uh, Amputations of fingers and toes, and a whole bunch of other ugly things that I don't want to talk about. However, what I do want to say is that I was told that he was not going to make it to 18. His father lived to be 30, and he is 23 right now and thriving. He's doing great. He works. If you see him, you would say he's perfectly fine. He doesn't have any ailments, but he is under the care of the Boston Children's Hospital. He has a whole team of doctors that I'm very grateful for. And with it, with spirituality, peace, and knowing that he has a strong will to be here, we know that he's going to be just fine. But back then, it was very stressful. And during the time when I received this Bible, it was almost like something magical that came from another galaxy, as you should say, because when my husband was on a deathbed, he was on a deathbed for 8 months. And during that time, I did read the Bible to him because I was raised with Catholic grandparents and father side of the family. They were mostly Catholic, and then my mom was very Christian Pentecostal. So I had the both strong religions believed within me as a child. And I also always believed in God and the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. But I am a hairdresser, cosmetologist, and I happen to have many clients from all over the world, and they believe in many different religions and a lot of different spiritual beliefs and practices and rituals. And I have been opened and educated by so many that I just accept everyone as they are because we just want to be happy. I respect other people's religions and their faith and the way that they connect with Source, God, Allah, or just their higher source, higher self. Because some people are atheists and they just believe in their higher self or the strength within. But as long as you're just trying to help others and live a happy, fulfilling, and peaceful life, I don't care whether you believe in God or not, actually. But in this channel, I want everyone to respect each other, respect everyone's beliefs. And when my husband was on a deathbed, I had many Bibles, and I used to just flip it, just like open, and whatever would say, whatever, I would read it to him, and it would bring some source of peace to us during such a hard time. It was really weird because it felt almost with every time I opened it, it just said the right words for us to kind of feel better. And I had complicated Bibles that I would read and be like, oh, I'm not too sure what this means. But once I would read it a couple of times, and I'm like, okay, I think I believe it, but I think I understand it. But it was still a little confusing because some of the King James ones were very complicated to read. And I used to say, I wish I had a Bible similar to the one that I used to have when I was in Catholic school. And I went into a biblical store after my husband passed away, and I came across one that was perfect, and it was the one that I should have had during the time when he was on a deathbed, and I kind of felt it, and I was about to buy it, but something inside my heart just felt like, oh, someone should give it to me as a gift, and I put it back. After being in the store for quite a while, maybe anywhere between 35 to 45 minutes, the people in there probably thought I was crazy because they kept asking me, you need any help? You need any help? And I'm like, no, no, I'm good, I'm good. And then finally, when I found my choice, I turned around and put it back and walk out empty-handed. I didn't even buy a marker from there. So then, fast forward, when I was dealing with my son's disability and a lot of health issues, and I could see a lot of signs similar to what his father was going through. And at the time, he was only 5 years old. He was actually in kindergarten, and he was missing a lot of days of school. And I was going through a lot of other background noise and very complicated family challenges that were surrounding me. So during that time, I ended up having a stroke, and I couldn't work and stayed behind the chair taking care of my clients. So I took a leave of absence for a certain amount of months. And during that time, I went into a store called Vida Sana, which was a health food store that I was owned by someone who I called my aunt, and her name is Yolanda, which she really helped me during the time of my stroke. So I walked into her store while the stroke was happening, and she warned me, told me I needed medical attention, but because my son was sick, I refused to go to the hospital, and she helped me get the massage and the therapy I needed to soothe the area that was coming up. But I still ended up having half of my body numb. And when I ended up in the hospital, they treated me. I got some rest, but I still had to get physical therapy to be able to get back to work. But during the time, I felt like physical therapy was important to recover, but so it was also important for me to give back, especially to thank her for the work, what she did to help me. And she also educated me on the foods that my son should eat for inflammation and all of that. And I was very grateful. So I said, I'd like to come into the store and work for about 4 hours a day, maybe 2 to 3 days a week, depending on how I feel. And you can make runs to the bank and you can take care of certain things. So she said, all right. But when I was there, I asked her if she could bring a Bible because I forgot to bring one of mine. She said that she would, but every time I walked in, she always forgot. And then one day, a woman came out of nowhere, and in Spanish, she said, who wants this Bible? And I looked up and I thought it was kind of crazy because it was the same exact Bible that I saw back then after my husband passed away. And it was obviously this one is the Bible. It's torn up into pieces. I don't really handle it anymore because it's been so many years. So when the woman came in, I literally jumped from behind the shelving. It was a glass shelving that was organizing some lotions and organic stuff that she had because it was all or natural health food store. So I yanked the Bible off of her and screamed Yolanda to come to the front. And I said that it was actually like a miracle because I was like, Yolanda, this is your friend. This is your friend. And you told her to bring a Bible. And look what she brings. She brings a Bible that I saw years ago after my husband passed away. And I started talking like a mile a minute. And everybody, the lady and Yolanda looking at me like, this woman must be going crazy. So I told her that she actually brought me the sign that I needed because of my son being so sick. I said, my son has a disability. They had told me that he's not going to make it to 18. My husband passed away several years ago, and I just suffered a stroke. I can't work, and I'm in here, helping Yolanda so that I can heal as well, because I always felt like helping others, doing something of charity, helping somebody else while you're even down, maybe someone who is. She wasn't doing worse than I was, because I was going through hell and back during that time. But I still wanted to help. I still wanted to do something for someone else, especially someone who did help me. And that was very healing. I believe that that was part of the reason why I recovered from my stroke so well, and why even during a lot of horrible things that had happened to me, I still am actually, I'm doing better now than I ever did. I'm in a very good place, and this is what brings me to share my story with you. So when the lady came in, she was shocked, that I was screaming and telling her this story. So she said, "I don't believe in God anymore. I used to be Seventh-day Adventist, and I decided to give away all of the Bibles because I wasn't going to throw them away. But I was told by my doctor that I had to move to a warm climate. So I'm moving to Puerto Rico because I have terrible arthritis, and I'm always feeling pain, and I don't believe in God anymore. I used to be part of my congregation, and I'm just so angry. I don't know what to believe." So I was like, "What?" And that surprised me, because I was like, "Man, I was told that my son wasn't going to survive, and I still didn't stop believing." My son has a disability similar to what you have, but his disability can cause death. His father passed away from it. And at that time, I was being medically gaslighted, because even though I saw all the signs that my son had the same disease, the doctors used to tell me that I was crazy and I was seeing things and it wasn't the same disease. Nevertheless, I gave her this information, and I told her how, the sign that the Bible was bringing me wasn't that I had to read the Bible from the front to the back and become a nun, and or some kind of pastor or something like that. The sign was that I was not alone, that I was spiritually connected to Source, to God, to Jehovah, to Allah, to our Creator, that I was going to find what is going to help my son. That somehow whatever they were telling me, that my son wasn't going to make it to 18, was a bunch of BS, because my son was going to be fine. That's what the sign of the Bible brought me. So I said to her, "How can you not believe? Because this is actually like a miracle to me, and you are a messenger, and you're just bringing me this amazing message. So you need to understand that you are a messenger, and I'm so grateful that you brought me this gift, because I'm glad that no one else took this Bible from you." And she said, "I offered it to like 12 people. My son is outside waiting for me, and I had him drive all the way from one town across, like, she must have crossed about two towns to make it to where we were, because he was practicing driving. He had just gotten his permit, and she wanted him to be more, um, driving more and to get more experience before they made it to Puerto Rico, because he was young, and she wanted him to be able to feel more confident driving once they got there. So she had him drive, and as they drove, she kept offering the Bible to anyone and everyone. So about 12 people said no, and a group of kids coming out of high school yelled and made jokes about the Bible to her. And she said if it was a bag of drugs, you would take it. So she was really upset. She walked in with a bitch resting face. She was so angry. As I told her the story about my husband and my son and the stroke, and the fact that I was there doing something to help her, help Yolanda, she started, her bitch resting face started to soften up, and her eyes started to tear up. And she said, "You need to tell my son the story." So when her son came in, I told him the story, and he started tearing up as well, because they were not really believing in God. They were both angry and obviously going into the level of atheists. So they were believing that because she had these pains and had to move to another, another island, because she wasn't just moving like in the same New England area. She was going to truly move far away. And she was bitter and angry. So when I told her, you're going to leave and you're going to be happier where you're going, you're going to be in a warm climate, you're going to be around people that you're going to probably really move and motivate and inspire. So you're going to have a lot more miracles happening. And she started to say, you know what, when I get there, I'm going to find my congregation, church, and I'm gonna give my life back to God, and then I'm gonna do, my work that I used to do. So she had explained that when the church used to do like Sunday school and be a very active member of her church. So that was a beautiful message, and I still have the Bible, and my son is still alive and thriving and doing great. So then there's another really cool story about a gift that I have received that I always keep with me, and I think I'm gonna have to dig deeper for this one, so I'm gonna have to come back.